Broadcasting live from Lothal. Good morning, Lothal. It's the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Good Morning Lothal, the Unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. I'm Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora.
How are we doing, Rolly?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing, man. It's been a long day. I was telling you, I've had a lot to do, but as always, we always slice out a little bit of time. We carve out that little segment of the day for our recording as usual. So I'm here. You're here,
man. Yep, it was a long week for me, so I felt it this morning when I woke up. I always wake up. We record on Sundays, for anybody that doesn't know. I wake up early on Sundays to do the outline. I spend a good amount of time on that, so I was kind of feeling it, but I was like, nope, we're gonna power through it, and we're gonna make this happen for not just for our Star Wars inner fanboys, but all the other listeners out there that have been following along with us.
Right. So this marks our 20th episode of doing this, Rolly. So there's a milestone there for us.
There you go.
And today we will be talking about Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episode 5. It's called Always Two There Are. Before we get to that, I just want to reiterate, it's that moment in the show where I ask for everyone to please like, share, subscribe, and rate. Y'all know why? Just do it if you can, or if you haven't already, okay? So, before we get to anything, Rolly, what's happening around the galaxy?
Let's see what's happening this week in Star Wars.
All right, so this week in Star Wars, a lot of birthdays, but we'll get to that. We got some news first. First and foremost, as of today, Sunday, August 21st, we are exactly 1 month away from Andor, which premieres September 21st. I know this morning when I woke up, I got on Instagram and all social media in general, Star Wars dropped kind of like one of those reminders, but the scene, and they showed a little bit more from Andor, which isn't much. They're not really giving away a lot, but I know I'm getting more hyped for it. I know we got that AMC rewatch coming up this coming weekend for Rogue One. So I think after we talked about that last week, I'm getting more like hyped for Andor. And it's weird because it's like a different kind of hype. Like I get hyped all the time to rewatch Rebels like I'm doing, but you know, it's animated. It hits a little bit differently. And I think Rogue One, and I know Andor is going to follow the same tone. It's a different kind of Star Wars tone that I don't think any of the films or any Star Wars entity has. So it's like, it's really awesome. It's a really chilling like feeling, but like a really cool one. I don't know if you feel the same way on that one.
I do. Like, just to put a button on that, I was able to get some tickets to go see Rogue One in IMAX. I'm going to Houston. I'm going out of town this coming weekend. But while I was there, I was like, okay, we're gonna do your thing, but like give me 2 hours to do something. So we booked some tickets to IMAX there in Houston, and I will be watching it, and hopefully you get to do it, because our local IMAX back home here is also showing it. So hopefully you grab some tickets to that too, so we can discuss next week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my plan. I'm not sure which day I'm gonna go check it out yet, but I gotta go see it in theaters again, because I wanna get hyped even more for Andor, which again premieres in 1 month, September 21st. So some other Star Wars news. We got an announcement this week for a new book, which a lot of the fans of Fallen Order out there are going to be excited about, because it's a book that features Cal Kestis, and it's called Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, and it is specifically set between the events of Jedi Fallen Order, which was the first game, of course, and the upcoming sequel to Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the book specifically is set to release March 7th, 2023. So we got a bit of time. I'm not sure when Jedi Survivor is going to release. I would think that it's going to release sometime before that, just to give gamers and book readers the opportunity to play through the game and, you know, add more to that story before they go into reading this novel. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be an exciting read. I'm for sure going to pick that one up because I'm a big fan of Fallen Order and the Cal Kestis character.
That is really cool that bridges the gaps between the two games. I'm just curious how much, like, you know, in the storyline is between the two games. what.
Yeah, and specifically, I think since it's like a lot of unknown territory as far as the Star Wars universe is concerned, I think that's what makes me even more interested. I always want to know more when it has to kind of deal with like the non-Skywalker saga.
Right.
I just want as much of that as I can get, because there's just so many sub stories out there that don't directly relate to the Skywalkers, that they're just so good. And you know, we see this in Rebels, we see it in the Mandalorian, we see it in the Bad Batch, and I just love it, and I want as much of it as I can get.
Absolutely, man. That's why we're all here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's go through our laundry list of birthdays this week. A lot of big names, a lot of cool ones that we're going to talk about. First and foremost, Matthew Wood, August 15th. He voices General Grievous in both Revenge of the Sith and Clone Wars. Speaking of Fallen Order, Cameron Monaghan, who is the voice of Cal Kestis in Fallen Order, born August 16th. I expect that, I would say when we get Cal Kestis in live action. I'm not going to say if, because I'm pretty certain this is going to happen at some point.
Right.
That was a really cool aspect of the way they designed him in the game. You know, it looks exactly like the actor, so it's going to be a seamless transition once he does come out in live action. And I haven't seen any of his other work beyond Shameless, but he was amazing in Shameless.
Okay, so good. Yeah. I mean, he was also actually really good in Gotham. He was one of the better standout villains there. He played Jerome, who was never really called the Joker, but he was supposed to be the Joker in the Gotham series. So
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I didn't finish Gotham, but I did watch when he was coming out. That's very true.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched all of his episodes. Let's put it that way. So I was already a fan of his from Shameless. I love that character that he played there also. So I followed him into Gotham. And the one thing is, I haven't really played Fallen Order. I played it a little bit. I haven't completed it. So if he ever does come out on live action, I'm definitely going to be tuned in for that, because I like that actor a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Another big name, Taika Waititi.
Speaking of liking that actor a lot, this guy. No.
Oh, sorry.
Taika Waititi. I love this guy, man. Everything he's in, I have been a fan of his since What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. It's in my top 10 hilarious movies. It's one of those feel good movies that I go back to every time that, like, I just need a pick me up or something. Let me put it this way. I think it's the only movie I've actually paid for on Amazon Prime that's still in my library, because I want access.
Which movie is this again?
What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen that?
Is that a movie? I thought it was a series.
It's a series now. Also created by him, but it's based off of a movie that he made at this point 10 years ago. I think it was like I don't even know, 2012 maybe.
Yeah.
But it is hilarious, and it's basically a mockumentary about some vampires living in New Zealand, and he's one of them. And dude, he is for like a break. If you want to take a breakout role that proved that he could write, direct, act, and be hilarious, What We Do in the Shadows. So happy birthday to this guy, because I cannot sing his praises anymore.
Yeah, and just to kind of reference his Star Wars attachments before we go on to the next ones, he was a director for Mandalorian episodes, I believe, in both season 1 and 2. I don't quite remember if there was one in season 2. I believe he was brought back. And then, of course, he has also been working on a future Star Wars film that I'm assuming I think his is actually the next one we get on the big screen, if I'm not mistaken. He
also voiced a droid in Mandalorian. He was the droid that had Grogu like as a binky, and he was like shooting the guns. Like, that was him.
Yeah, he was like that. I don't remember his number, but he was like the IG-88 type droid that was like dragging that boat, so to say, through the lava. Yeah. I think it was like that. I think that was the final episode of the first season of Mandalorian, but that was a really cool episode sequence. Next on the list, we have Barbara Goodson, August 16th. She voices Mother Talzin in the Clone Wars. And for anybody that doesn't remember, that's actually the clan mother of the Night Sisters, the group on Dathomir, the group that Saj Ventress comes from. So she plays a big role in a lot of the episodes in that series. Another name, Brighton James, August 17th. This is not as big of a name, but I specifically mentioned him because he plays Zer Leonis in Rebels, who we have talked about in the past few episodes already. And then last but not least, Pete's grading on this one because this is his favorite character, Ahmed Best, August 19th, who plays Jar Jar Binks in the prequel trilogy.
No hate for the man. He did his job. He did his job well. He as obviously he is notoriously established in the Star Wars universe. For better or worse, he did his job. So happy birthday to him as well.
And I specifically did not put these in any particular order. I usually follow the dates. And then, so what I usually do, guys, is I'll put the big name at the end. Like if they have the earlier birthday in the week, I put it at the end. And this one just perfectly lined up in sequence. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not going to touch this one. I'll leave it alone. So I'm going to kind of surprise you on this one, Pete.
Okay.
So I know we've done this before. There's these TikTok games for all intents and purposes. That's what I'll call them. I'll refer to them as that.
Okay.
That come along during the week. I'm a big fan of TikTok TikTok Star Wars content creation, to be specific. This week there was a couple of them that were directly related to Rebels, and I wanted to kind of partake. But basically, what they do on TikTok is they're basically spinning a wheel, so to say. So there's like a bubble that appears above their head, and then there's a question, right? There was two that they did this week. One of them was, which Ghost crew member are you? So they would spin the wheel and it would land on a specific one. I think it'd be too easy for us to pick, or I actually think I would have a difficult time picking who I would relate to the most. But the other one that I thought was cool that I want to do here on the show is, what planet would you most like to, or what planet are you from, or which planet would you most like to be on in the Star Wars universe? So rather than spin the wheel, I'm just going to ask you, Pete, like if you had to pick one planet and it was your home planet in the Star Wars universe, like which one would you pick and why?
Wow, that is I mean, to me the easy answer is Alderaan, because it's so like beautiful and majestic, and has this now we've seen has these awesome countryside, and it's just got this it's a beautiful planet, but we all know what happens to that planet. So I might not want to be on that planet, but man, Tatooine has a huge history, but I don't like the sand either. I'm not a fan of just straight up sand without water.
Insert Anakin's "I don't like sand" line.
Exactly. It's coarse and it gets everywhere, or whatever he says. Oh shit. I'm gonna, what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna go hang out with the Ewoks on Endor. That's what I'm gonna do.
Are you sure about that? Because I always saw this theory online. Like, I'm sure you've heard of this, and if you haven't, you're gonna love this one. People online have always wondered, why did the Ewoks just so happen to have clothes already for Princess Leia when they show up? And basically, they're theorizing that, I mean, they were about to eat them for all intents and purposes. So they've already done this before. So maybe they're not so cuddly and lovable.
Right, you're right.
We're led to believe.
They could be cannibal. Yeah, they do eat the people that they catch. Oh my god, dude! Like, this is a rough one.
This really is kind of like that. Which job would you want to be? But what is it? The hazard, or not the hazard? I was gonna say hazard pay, but like the dangers of any job in the Star Wars universe is very high based off of everything we've seen. It's kind of the same concept with which planet would you like to linger on? Right,
man. I guess that makes sense as to why so many characters in the Star Wars universe just kind of cruise on their ship the whole time. Like, they basically live on their ship.
Yeah, seriously, you can't go wrong like that, right?
Yeah, but okay, so. Yeah, you shot down my Endor idea because I'm going to get eaten by Ewoks. I can go to what's it called, Kashyyyk or whatever, where the Wookiees are from.
Yeah,
I can't go there because they're also like savage beasts that'll rip me apart. I feel I'm not safe anywhere in the galaxy. Thank you, Rolly. Now you put an entire spin on it for me.
I would say your safest bet is Naboo. And considering how much you strongly dislike the Gungans, those would be your neighbors. If you could tolerate that, I think you'd be good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Naboo. Let's go with Naboo. I'll do my best to blend in with the Gungans. And oh boy, I was not expecting that. Yeah, you did throw me off guard. What about you? You've had time to think about this. Where would you live, Roly?
I actually didn't put any thought into it. I'm gonna say Mustafar. No, I'm just kidding.
a little too hot.
You know what? I feel like Jakku is kind of like shown to be almost like a Tatooine type planet in the sequel trilogy, except I feel like there's a lot less violence going on.
That's true.
On Jakku. So I would say, as much as the sand sucks, maybe you can get away with hanging out there. Or you know what? Whatever that planet Maz Kanata's bar was on, where in The Force Awakens, I think that would be a chill spot. I spent like very little time on this, but I'm trying to brainstorm on the spot. Where is the least amount of danger that exists? And I think you nailed it perfectly with Alderaan up until the point that it's destroyed. I mean, Princess Leia even says it. She's like, "We're a peaceful people. Like, you don't have to do what you're going to do before Grand Moff Tarkin pulls the trigger on Alderaan." So that's kind of sad.
And where is the Jedi Temple located?
Coruscant.
That might also be a good one too. Yeah. That's like a sprawling, city, and it's kind of like I don't know. God, this was a good question. What I mean, I didn't watch these videos, but what were most of the people saying?
I only so they didn't get to pick. It was a reel, so it was always it's like you're blessed with this. I know one of my favorite follows that I follow, she just landed on Mustafar. She's like, "Yep, that's about right." So that was super funny.
Okay, well, that was interesting, and thank you for taking us down that road. So I guess this is a good time to say, like, where would you guys live? You listeners, we'd like to hear from you. Jump in the comments and let us know where would based on all of the different planets and cities and whatnot that we've seen over the years of Star Wars, where is it that you would like to live or feel safest living, I guess. So let us know. Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. So Roly, why don't you hit us with a synopsis?
So on this week's episode, thanks to Rex's intel, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper head out to an abandoned Republic medical station with the hopes of finding much-needed supplies. When they encounter new enemies, however, the stakes become much higher.
Yes, excellent. So we find out in this episode basically what the title is about. And the title, like you said, was a reference to something that Yoda said in the past. That's why it's worded in Yoda speak. Always two there are, which later plays into the main point of this episode. So the show begins with the Ghost crew and the newly added member Rex hanging out in the Ghost Lounge. And Rex is playing Dejarik against Zeb, while Kanan continues Ezra's Jedi training. There was a really funny scene where Kanan tells Ezra that his lesson for the day is to lift Chopper. And it's funny, like, I picked up on this when he said, you're going to lift Chopper, and of course Chopper has a reaction. And I dare you, rewind it, and obviously it's in robot speak, but I swear he said, "What the WTF?" Like it was like almost clear as day. Either that or I'm picking up and learning Chopper speak, because I heard that, and when I heard that was my reaction. I laughed out loud because, granted, it was like that kind of thing, but to me, I heard him say WTF. That was really
on some of those short phrases, you can kind of start hearing it, and it's funny that you say that, because this is the episode where Ezra starts basically saying, like, I've been practicing with Chopper. I'm starting to understand him, because Zeb starts questioning. He's like, "Hey man, you can understand?"
Right. So Kanan tells him to lift Chopper as his force lesson, and Sabine whispers to Chopper to lock his feet down to prank Ezra from being able to pick him up. And Ezra is frustrated that he can't lift Chopper, at which point Rex steps in for a teaching lesson, which was very interesting, because Rex noticed or overheard Sabine tell Chopper to lock himself. And Ezra says, I can't do it. And Rex says, "Hey kid, while you're looking through the Force, don't forget to look with your eyes too. The droid's got his feet locked down." And Ezra said, "It's not fair." And Kanan says, "Real battles usually aren't." And Rex says, "The Jedi general I served combined the Force with his wits, and it made him a great warrior." And Kanan says, "Ezra's got plenty of wits. What he needs is more discipline." And this is where Rex says, "Well, then you better let a soldier handle that." And Kanan says, "Excuse me?" So obviously, we're still playing off that underlying tension between Rex and Kanan that we've been building the last few episodes.
Yeah, I think at this point, Kanan's kind of already like over the whole clone thing. He's accepted it, but now there's a whole new commander, an old commander at that on board. So suddenly it's not that he's barking orders or anything, but his experience and his input, he's going to start giving it, even though it's not necessarily being asked. And the funny thing with Rex is, just by coincidence, he had the Chosen One as his Jedi General back in the Clone Wars. So he has very high expectations of what a Jedi should be.
Right.
So after they have that conversation, Hera steps in to let the team know that she found medical supplies thanks to Rex's base intel, and she is going to specifically send Zeb, Sabine, and Chopper to acquire them. Rex and Kanan continue to escalate their argument to Ezra's lack of discipline, as Rex attributes it directly to Kanan not being disciplined himself. And Ezra boards the Phantom to join the mission even though he was not assigned to it, with Sabine, Chopper, and Zeb, as he is continually growing annoyed by the arguing that is happening between Kanan and Rex. So Kanan and Rex at this point, specifically Kanan, he's just starting to act a bit childish because he's been doing a great job at this point training Kanan, and now Rex, here's another, leader that comes on board and he wants to give his input for the right reasons, but Kanan's the father. He doesn't want somebody else
exactly
trying to change his ways of teaching. So like I mentioned, the rebels board the Phantom as they're going to go off on this mission to look for medical supplies, and they're shown approaching an old abandoned Republic medical station used during the Clone Wars. So immediately Chopper grows suspicious of the base once they land, because the base is like powered down, it's dark. He's not scared, he's just concerned. Like it's just a little too spooky for his liking. Ezra reaffirms him not to worry about it though. So while they're searching the base for medical supplies, they're quietly being followed by a probe droid. This probe droid looks a little different than your typical probe droids that we've seen so far in the Star Wars universe. This one's kind of like a little bit much smaller. So they're quietly being followed by a probe droid who is reporting what it is seeing back to a suspicious woman on communications. And this is a voice that we haven't heard before, so definitely know something's coming.
Right.
Meanwhile, Sabine locates the command center of the medical station and she orders Chopper to power it back up. So after that, we cut to a scene on the Star Destroyer with Callus, Constantine, and the fifth brother who we were just introduced to in the previous episode aboard. Constantine states, "These mystics are unnecessary. I don't know why Lord Vader insists on sending them." And then one of the deck officers chimes in and says, "Agent Callus, I may have something. A power surge at a decommissioned medical station in Sector 11. It could be rebels." Callus says it could be anything, a malfunction or even scavengers. And then the fifth brother cuts him off and says, "No, I sense those we seek." And Callus responds, "One of your disturbances, I assume. Very well. Set a course for this medical station." The Inquisitor tells him, "Your assistance is unnecessary, Agent Callus. I shall go alone." So we cut back to our rebels, and after powering up the terminal, Sabine is unable to read the corrupt inventory files to help locate the medical supplies that they were sent on this mission for. The team has no choice but to search for the supplies manually, and they tell Chopper specifically to stay back at the command center and continue to work on repairing the files to help them locate the supplies. So while the team is searching for the medical supplies, Chopper is immediately alerted to the presence of another droid, which is the probe droid that we just saw from the previous scene that was recording the rebels. So he takes off from his command post and he's going to investigate it because he doesn't know what this is. So he basically has them chasing him down several corridors, and finally the probe droid positions him in a certain way to catch him off guard, and he actually like electrocutes him, and Chopper passes out, so to say. So the probe droid, I guess he starts tinkering with his parts to send a communication to the rebels. It's basically a distress call. So sensing that Chopper is in trouble, the team immediately goes to find him walking right into the droid's trap. And you see this dark, suspicious character, right behind the probe droid as they're led to, to Chopper. And Ezra says, "What is that?" And Sabine says, "Looks like it's a probe droid." And then at this point, we're introduced to yet another Inquisitor who is the seventh sister. And she says, "My pet told me you were here. I've been searching for you for some time." And Ezra goes, "A bounty hunter?" And the seventh sister says, "Guess again," as she ignites her Inquisitor lightsaber. And Ezra says, "You're an Inquisitor." And the Seventh Sister says, "Oh, good. I won't have to explain it to you, so you know what comes next." And Sabine immediately begins opening fire and tells Ezra to run.
Yeah, cool scene. And I really dug her helmet mask situation that was happening there. That was really cool.
Yeah, and I was debating revealing this in this episode or later. I want to reveal this early on because I think it's a really cool... it's not a cameo. This is going to be a recurring character. But the voice of the Seventh Sister is actually Sarah Michelle Gellar. So,
yeah.
Yes.
That's
so
cool.
I know when I first saw Rebels, I didn't pick up on that until I saw a meme online, and this is from a future episode where she actually has interaction with Kanan. And for those that don't know, again, if remember, Freddie Prinze Jr. voices Kanan. Well, Sarah Michelle Gellar is married to Freddie Prinze Jr., so I would say that's part of the reason she ends up on Rebels, but that's the connection here as to why Sarah Michelle Gellar is now in the Star Wars universe, which I think is really cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
So anybody who's
real quick,
sorry, go ahead.
She's the Seventh Sister, and going back to Kenobi, Reva was the third sister. That's what they called her, right?
Was it correct? The third or the second?
Second or third, one of those. So I guess that means chronologically, does that mean that she came after Reva? Like the Reva situation has already happened? Or
that's a good question. That's something that I've never looked into as to like how they attain that numbers. I would perceive it that's how they're assigned as they're I guess turned into an Inquisitor. They're just assigned the next number.
Yeah, she's the third sister. I just
okay.
So
thanks. Yeah, then the second sister is I think Trilla from Fallen Order. So
okay, that's interesting.
I think there's still unaccounted numbers out there, but between that video game, Kenobi now, and Rebels, there's a large majority of the numbers assigned to the Inquisitors. So
okay, just a side note. Moving on.
So Ezra and Sabine duel against the Inquisitor and her droids while on the run, and while moving backwards, they also happen to run into the fifth brother who has been searching for these rebels as well. Ezra sees them and he says, "How many of these guys are there?" And Sabine says, "Well, there's two of them now." And the Seventh Sister captures Ezra, and of course Sabine attempts to help, but Ezra understands the position that they're in. He seals the door so that he can save Sabine, and he orders her to run. And the Seventh Sister tells him, "Such a noble act, just like a Jedi." The fifth brother attempts to finish Ezra as he's approaching from the back of the Seventh Sister, but the Seventh Sister blocks his attack with her saber. And she specifically tells him, "I'm surprised to see you here." And the fifth brother says, "The kill is mine." The Seventh Sister responds, "You are short-sighted. We will use the boy as bait to draw in the others. Now find the girl." The Seventh Sister looks back at Ezra and tells him, "You and I are going to have a talk, and if you're good, maybe some of your friends will survive."
Yeah, that just kind of highlighted stuff that we've seen in other iterations of the Inquisitors, that there's always this kind of a infighting, kind of a competition between them all about they do not work as a team. They work well, they do their jobs well, but internally they do not work well as a team because there's always this constant battle for supremacy and hierarchy within the Inquisitors. Just another example of that.
Yeah, we saw it in Kenobi, obviously, with Reva, always overstepping every single Inquisitor, including the Grand Inquisitor himself, just looking to get her revenge against Vader, as we come to find out.
Right.
And then specifically now we're seeing it here in Rebels because the Grand Inquisitor, he's gone. So you can basically see that the Grand Inquisitor title is up for grabs, and the Inquisitors that remain, they're not going to help each other. Whoever gets the first kill, they're looking for all the glory, I guess, as far as favor in Vader's eyes.
Right.
So again, Sabine escapes. Ezra's left behind. He's captured. So first thing Sabine does is she knows, I got to go look for Zeb. And we didn't touch on this, but the point where they attempted to go rescue Chopper, Zeb actually gets stuck in one of those ventilation shafts because Ezra's like, well, the quickest way to get to Chopper is if we go through the ventilation shaft like he's always doing. So Sabine follows him.
Right.
But Zeb, since he's such a big creature, the Lasat, he gets stuck. So apparently he's been stuck this whole time. A real comedic moment, but in a real serious situation. But, right. That's Rebels for you. So Sabine proceeds to look for Zeb and rescues him, quote unquote, basically just pulls him out of the ventilation shaft that he's stuck in. and she informs him that they need to rescue Ezra, who has just been captured by the two Inquisitors. Zeb is surprised when she says two Inquisitors and tells her, one was bad enough, we need to get Kanan. Then Sabine says, no, if we send a signal, we could compromise the fleet. We have to try and save Ezra ourselves. So now we get some really interesting dialogue that's occurring between the Seventh Sister and Ezra as she's keeping him as a hostage. So the Seventh Sister proceeds to tell him, as she's inspecting his lightsaber that she obviously took from him, she tells him, you handle a lightsaber well, apprentice. And Ezra responds, well, I've got some time if you wanted a lesson. And the Inquisitor responds, you have great potential, but perhaps it is I that might teach you, as your master never achieved the rank of Jedi Knight, did he? So Ezra says, maybe not, but he took out the last Inquisitor, so I think I'll just stick with him. The Seventh Sister responds, yes, the death of the Grand Inquisitor was a surprise to us all. Yet, it does present the rest of us with new opportunities. There are many hunting you now, all intent with killing you and your master. Does that frighten you? And Ezra says, if you were going to kill me, you'd have already done it. And the Inquisitor tells him, kill you? I have no plans to kill you yet. So I really like the dialogue here because Ezra, remember, is still young. There was plenty of spots when they were dueling the Grand Inquisitor in the first season where he was just clearly, afraid. Yeah. It was above his pay grade, so to say. Kanan took the lead on those fights, and Ezra was simply supporting Kanan. But here, Ezra is introduced to two brand new Inquisitors. Like, he's never seen them before. The rebels, at this moment, for all intents and purposes, thought they disposed of the single Grand Inquisitor. They didn't know that there was other Inquisitors. And here, Ezra's like basically just standing up to this Inquisitor,
right?
With no fear. Like he knows what he did, save Sabine. He knows the position he's following in Kanan's footsteps, the same way that Kanan gave himself up at the end of the first season to save the rebels. Now Ezra's doing the same thing, and to me it's just amazing because he's so young. Kanan is so much older, so much wiser, and Ezra just like immediately picks up on what it is to be a good teammate, a good Jedi, a good person, and he's very selfless. So I know I've always read stuff on Rebels online how Ezra might be one of the lesser favorite characters in the show because he's a kid. There's always that talk of the kids are annoying in these shows. Ahsoka was annoying in the earlier Clone Wars episodes. Ezra's annoying because I guess it's just a kid thing, right? But these moments like these, it really shows you the path that they're taking in the character development, like how these kids grow up and they grow up fast and they're put in such big situations to really let their inner character, so to say, shine. So I really enjoyed the dialogue that we get in this episode specifically because there's more to come on that. So that scene cuts, and then we cut to a scene where Zeb and Sabine are being hunted specifically by the fifth brother. And Sabine sets an explosive trap to eliminate him, but the detonator does not work when she attempts to set off the explosives. We'll come to find out it's because the Inquisitor is actually preventing the explosives from going off. And he force pushes all the explosives towards Sabine and Zeb, who are knocked unconscious after the explosion. He takes Sabine with him and tells the probe droids that Zeb is theirs to do with whatever they want. Zeb proceeds to get into a fight with the droids and smashes the final one onto a container, which happens to be the medical supplies for the rebels we're looking for. So now we cut back to the dialogue that I was just referring to, and we get more of it between the Seventh Sister and Ezra. She tells him, why can you just not cooperate? Why do you compel me to inflict pain? You know we'll find the others, so why not just tell me where they are? And Ezra responds, because unlike you, I can shut up. You're like a broken protocol droid. So a lot of sass here from Ezra in such a dire position.
Right.
And the Seventh Sister responds, you hide your fear well. Poor child, if only you had the power to protect your friends. And Ezra says, shows what you know. I'm growing more powerful every day. And she responds, unfortunate, there's no one left to train you. The Jedi of old are dead. And Ezra says, not all of them. And the Seventh Sister responds, we know about Ahsoka Tano. And Ezra proceeds to act dumb, and he's like, who's Ahsoka Tano? Right. And the Inquisitor responds, as pretty as you are, I only need you alive. That doesn't mean in one piece. Now, where's Ahsoka Tano? And that scene was really funny because specifically when she says "as pretty as you are," there's a pause and it shows Ezra's like, "Huh? Like, is she flirting with me?"
Yeah, there was a definite like seductive kind of a tone with her and Ezra this entire interaction.
Yeah, it's very strange, but I guess it is what it is. So this was a really cool scene because this is the first mention of Ahsoka from the Inquisitors. Earlier in the conversation, I think the perception was that they were specifically looking for Ezra and Kanan, but it turns out that they're looking for Ahsoka. And this, for me, definitely says this was the direct order of Vader. Once he finds out that his apprentice survived, forget Obi-Wan, and forget these rebels, these new Jedi that are apparently survivors. I need to find my apprentice because she needs to be taken care of. She's powerful. She knows the identity of Anakin. And as he mentioned in that one episode earlier this season, he does also see it as a way for him to get to Obi-Wan.
Right.
So, yeah, that seems to be the order for the Inquisitors, is to find Ahsoka Tano. So Zeb finds Chopper and wakes him up after he was last left unconscious from the probe droid that shocked him. He tells him that he needs his help, as it seems he now has a plan to rescue both Ezra and Sabine, which he does get into shortly later. However, we quickly cut back to the scene, and the fifth brother takes Sabine to the seventh sister, who still has Ezra hostage, and she's still interrogating him. The fifth brother asks what she has learned from Ezra, but the seventh sister is reluctant to share any information with him. And again, that's what we discussed, that the Inquisitors are out for blood on their own, right, to gain the favor of Vader. They're not about sharing or helping each other or anything like that. The seventh sister orders Ezra to contact the rebel fleet, but Ezra continues to resist. Ezra asks Sabine what happened to Zeb, who informs him that they tried to fight, but Zeb never had a chance. The seventh sister proceeds to tell them that their friend is dead. So then we cut again back to Zeb, and he's loading the medical supplies that he just found onto the Phantom. And he turns to Chopper and says that they need to rescue Ezra and Sabine, because even though they are clearly outmatched by two Inquisitors and seemingly have no chance, they're not going to leave without them. So he says, if we leave this space station, we will never see those kids again. I came here with them, and I'm not leaving without them. I like how he uses the words kids, because I guess in my eyes, Zeb is like the uncle. He's older, Sabine and Ezra are the younger ones.
Right.
And now, instead of having like that brotherly conflict that he's always had with Ezra, I think he's taking more of an adult role here, and he's like, Kanan and Hera make it a point to take care of us as family. I need to do my part, and I need to take care of these kids. I'm not going to leave them behind, even though I've completed the mission. I have the medical supplies in hand. So I like that they showcase this in Zeb, because Zeb is typically the annoyed, like, as far as characters that get annoyed on the Ghost crew, he's a close second behind Chopper. Like, he doesn't tolerate much. So this is a really cool scene. So now he's going to execute his plan. So they show Zeb calling Sabine and Ezra on communications, and he goes, "Hello, Spectre 6, come in. Do you read? This is Commander Melu Run." So he invents this name. This is a throwback to season 1 when Hera asked them to look for the Melu Run fruit. Yes. So that's the commander name that he chose to use in this situation. So at this point, as soon as he contacts them, the Inquisitors, for whatever reason, they're just sold. Like, oh, okay, now we got him, right? And I always love that about the Inquisitors, the Empire in general. They're just made to look like fools for as powerful as they are. And this scene, like, I totally loved it, because up until this point, the fifth brother and the seventh sister just come off as so intimidating, and this is when they let their guard down. Right. So again, to reiterate, Zeb says, "Hello, Spectre 6, come in. Do you read? This is Commander Melu Run." And the fifth brother is like real excited. He's like, "Answer him." So Sabine says, "Commander Melu Run, yes, I can hear you." And Zeb says, "You missed your check-in. Am I correct in assuming mechanical difficulties have your craft stranded again, and you're in need of help with repairs?" And then the seventh sister's totally full too. She's like, "Yeah, answer him. And Sabine goes, "Commander, we can handle everything. No need for you or the others." So the fifth brother gets upset. He grabs Sabine and threatens her life with his saber because he didn't like her answer. And Ezra tells him, no, Commander, we changed our mind. We could use some help. Bring Kanan, and you better bring Ahsoka too. And Zeb says, very well, meet you in basics, and don't worry, we'll fix everything. Just keep your chin up, and it'll all be fine. And when he says just keep your chin up, he kind of puts emphasis on the word chin up. So there's a bit of a riddle attached to his plan. So the Inquisitors escort Sabine and Ezra to base 6 because they're thinking they're gonna now be able to take down the rebel fleet who has shown up to save Ezra and Sabine.
Right, they've got the jump on them, knowing where they're going to be.
Exactly. How unfortunately they don't know that they're being led into a surprise trap and rescue attempt by Zeb. So as they walk into base 6, Ezra's like pondering to himself. He's like, chin up, chin up. What exactly does that mean? And sure enough, I guess the light bulb turns on and he looks up, putting his chin up, so to say. And he notices that Zeb is perched on the ceiling of the Phantom, just ready to now swoop in and rescue them. So as he's looking up, I guess the probe droid sees what he's doing and looks up also, and he immediately alerts the Inquisitors, and now the battle basically ensues. Zeb's caught by the Inquisitors, so he swoops down and starts shooting at them to distract them, to give Sabine and Ezra enough time to board the back of the Phantom, the cargo door, so to say. So this leads to a really cool scene because now that they're on board, they're trying to escape, and we see kind of like some of the brute strength of these Inquisitors, because what they do is now they're force pulling the Phantom and preventing it from leaving the medical bay, or the medical station rather, as the cargo doors are starting to close. And they're both force pulling. This is kind of like I don't want to call it a trick, but a show of strength that we've seen from Ahsoka in the final season of the Clone Wars, where she's trying to prevent Maul from taking off. Ahsoka's obviously very powerful. And then we see it, of course, in The Rise of Skywalker, where Rey is trying to prevent the ship that has Chewie from taking off before she shoots the Force lightning. So I thought this was a really cool like callback to those scenes, even though this came out before Rise of Skywalker, because up until this point, the Inquisitors do give off a bit of a goofy vibe, but that's not to mean that they are not powerful. And I think this scene was really cool to show that they're not, they might come off as foolish, they might come off as, being played, but that doesn't take away from their power level. Right. Keep in mind, the Jedi are extinct for all intents and purposes. The Empire and the, Vader and his Inquisitors, they are the strongest force wielders, at least they perceive to be, that are left in the galaxy. So in this scene, as the Inquisitors are pulling off this feat, Sabine starts shooting at them, so that she can basically break their force pulls to give the Phantom an opportunity to take off. She's fortunately successful, and the Phantom barely manages to escape as the cargo bay doors of the medical facility are closing in on them. Right. So now that the Phantom has escaped, they rendezvous back with the Rebel fleet. And this is kind of like the culmination of the episode, the ending. And as they're docking, we cut back to the Ghost Lounge, and sure enough, Rex and Kanan are basically still trying to hash out their issues, so to say. Yeah. Last time we left them, they were arguing about discipline and whatnot. So Kanan and Rex are playing a game of Dejarik themselves now. And Kanan, they show the scene where Kanan, I guess he makes the winning move, and he looks at Rex and he goes, I win. And Rex goes, looks like you can be disciplined when you set your mind to it. And Kanan's like, what? Wait, are you trying to say you're teaching me a lesson right now? And Rex goes, there are many ways to find victory. And Kanan responds, I'm not sure if I like you more or less now. Yeah. So even though we haven't seen them this entire episode, Kanan took it upon himself to be the bigger person here. And you know what? He's like, let me take some lessons from Rex, or I'm gonna hang out with Rex, and just get to know him more. And it ends up leading to a lesson. And when he says, I'm not sure if I like you more or less now, he hears the door to the room open, and the rebels are back. Ezra, Chopper, Sabine, and Zeb. And Kanan goes, speaking of lack of discipline, Ezra, we need to talk. And Ezra is very upset at this point, and he goes, yeah, we do, about the 2 Inquisitors we just ran into. And Kanan goes, Inquisitors? And Sabine goes, yes, 2. We got lucky. Zeb saved us. Without him, things could have been really bad. And Rex looks at Zeb and says, well done, soldier. And Zeb responds, "It was a group effort. Those Inquisitors are nasty business. Kanan, why didn't you tell us there were more of them?" And Hera's kind of like in shock at this point. She sees that Kanan is frightened. So she steps in to try to calm the situation down like she always does. I love Hera, by the way, for all these little moments.
Right.
So Hera says, "Commander Sato is going to need a full report on this." And Ezra goes, "Well, we did get the medical supplies, some of them." And Hera responds, "Well, that's good news then. I'll meet you three on the command deck." And Ezra goes, "Kanan, they knew about Ahsoka." And Kanan responds, "I'll tell her." And Hera says, "Did you know there were more than one?" At which point Kanan says, "No, I didn't. Do you think Ahsoka knows?" Asking Rex. And Rex responds, "I honestly don't know." And Kanan finishes the scene by saying, "We really have no idea what we're up against." And when he says that, there's like a very dark, ominous version of the Imperial March that plays,
Right.
in basically implying, Vader is playing his own larger game of the Jarek, his own, and just moving chess pieces around and really playing the rebels. They thought they had won when they defeated the Inquisitor, but that's certainly not the case.
Right. And I didn't think about that, about him playing his own game of chess. That's a very interesting way to put it. So that's the end. That's the end of this episode. It kind of flew by. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of kind of building. There's underlying storylines of Kanan and Rex that was planted at the beginning, and it's continuing to be watered at the end of just this still underlying turmoil between the two of them. But they're doing their best to work it out, and I like that they ended up playing Jarek at the end with each other. It was kind of like end of X-Men, where Magneto and Professor X are playing chess, like two enemies, but they have common ground, just kind of like two. Anyway, that's kind of what it reminded me of. But no, it was a good episode. I like that they're including the Inquisitors more, because obviously Vader can't be in every single episode. So this is like a perfect extension of the arm of the whole Vader ominous vibe that he gives off with his Inquisitors. So I dug it. I dug this episode.
Yeah, same. And I like the play on words on the title for the episode, Always Two There Are, because that is, as we mentioned in the last episode, reference to the rule of two, a master and apprentice, but that's not how they used it in this episode. It was simply to say that we were going to get two Inquisitors. So play on words, but applicable nonetheless. Dave Filoni, I'm sure, named this episode himself. He likes to have the fans on their toes rather. So, yeah.
Right. Okay, so then that brings us to the end of this episode of Good Morning Lothal, the unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. Before I go, once again, I want to remind everyone to please like, share, subscribe, and rate. Also, drop any comments or questions that you might have about the show. We want to hear from you. And Rolly, anything else you want to add?
Honestly, never know what to say when you ask me. Looking forward to continuing. I hate giving you guys the same recycled answer, but it is what it is, right? We're here for Star Wars, so it's really hard to break the mindset on the answer.
So the next episode will be episode 6 of season 2, and it's called Brothers of the Broken Horn. Very, very mysterious. I don't know what that could possibly mean, Brothers of the Broken Horn, but we will definitely find out next week when we return to Good Morning Lothal, the unofficial Star Wars Rebels podcast. So with that, this has been your host, Pete Salas, along with
Rolando Zamora,
saying, may the Force be with you always. Goodbye from Lothal.